Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Staff Sergeant Nicholas Smith. This broadcast is intended for every member of the United States Congress, United States Senate, House Armed Services Committee, both Democrat and Republican, President of the United States, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Navy, Commandant of the Marine Corps, and Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, respectively. This broadcast is part 2 of the Request Mast follow-up that took place yesterday at Matzik 21 in Pensacola, Florida. Unfortunately, right now, today is July 10th. The time is 12:07 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and I am on my way to report to Col Brunk, the commanding officer of Matzik 21, for an unscheduled meeting. So unfortunately, I do not have the printout of Request Mast Procedures, Marine Corps Order 1700.23 Golf with my highlights and my annotations, so that I can start where I left off on part 1. However, I do have my notes that I'm going to do my best to read from, and I only have a little under an hour from when I arrived to report to Col Brunk. So I'm going to try to remember everything that I can. So yesterday, July 9th, at via text message, and the text messages that I'm referencing is the text message video that I uploaded yesterday, July 9th, in regards to me being notified and ordered to report to Col Brunk, or the Major Kirk, in regards to the Request Mast follow-up. And that is available on my YouTube channel. It's available on my Facebook page. It is available on my TikTok page. And at 10:08, July 9th, 2024, I was contacted by Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart, which is my senior illicit advisor, stating, Staff Sergeant Smith, the Matzik 21 adjutant, which is Major Kirk, would like to conduct a follow-up with you in reference to your Request Mast. Ensure you bring your sealed package with you. Can you be there today? The government vehicle is available if you desire to use it. Let me know as soon as possible so that I can update Matzik. I replied to Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart at 10:36 a.m. Master Gunner Sergeant, I am not sure if I can attend that follow-up today. Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart responded at 10:37 a.m. What is your earliest availability? I responded to Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart at 10:39, Thursday, July 11th, 2024, at 1300 or 1 o'clock p.m. Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart responded at 10:41 a.m. Okay, thank you. I will inform Matzik 21. More to follow, possibly. At 10:53 a.m., Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart texted me, Staff Sergeant, I need to know what precludes you from being at Matzik 21 at 1500 today. I need some proof of your non-availability to provide it to Mastic 21. Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart then sent another text message 1 hour later. Staff Sergeant, did you copy my last message? I need to forward something to Mastic 21. My reason for the hour and delay is because my phones, I left them in the house because I was attending to my basic needs, and I was trying to take care of myself, and I did not have access to my phone during that time period. And so that's why there is a lapse in my response. And so I finally recovered my phone at 12:23 p.m. and I notified, I responded to Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart. Master Gunner Sergeant, I would like to ask Mastic 21, why can't I show at 1:00 p.m. on Thursday, and why it has to be so late in the afternoon? Lieutenant Colonel Martinez responded at 12:38 p.m. Staff Sergeant Smith, unless you can produce a doctor's note stating you have an appointment this afternoon, it is a direct order that you be at Mastic 21 headquarters to see Colonel Brunk. I responded to Lieutenant Colonel Martinez at 12:24 p.m. Good afternoon, sir. The last time I went to Mastic 21, the entire building was empty. The only personnel there was the duty staff NCO, Staff Sergeant Thornton, the male NCO, and the entire command deck. I would like to know why I cannot show at 1:00 p.m. on Thursday, and what is preventing me from being there at that time and date. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez responded at 1:10 p.m. Staff Sergeant, this is a direct order. I'm not playing this game with you, and neither is Mastic 21. If you are not there at 1500, expect a charge sheet. I responded to Lieutenant Colonel Martinez at 1:36 p.m. Sir, all I am doing is asking why. I did not know asking why constitutes as playing a, quote, game, end quote. There is nothing wrong with asking why. Where the concern is why am I being directed to report to Mastic 21 for an unscheduled meeting so that, quote, the Mastic 21 adjutant would like to conduct a follow-up with you in reference to your request mast. This will be in person at Mastic, end quote. You're threatening to charge me for not reporting to Mastic 21. You all asked me, and I told you when I would be available. And still, in complete disregard for whatever I have going on in my life, said forget what we just asked him. Also, I would like to ask why do I need to, quote, ensure you bring your sealed package with you, end quote. Master Gunnery Sergeant Shookhart texted me individually at 2:15 p.m. Staff Sergeant, Mastic 21 wants to follow up with you for your request mast. I asked you to bring your package in the event you decide to route it up. They expect you there at 1500. Will you make it? I can adjust the time with them if you are running behind. I want you to get there safely, so don't speed. That was the end of the message from Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart. At 2:16 p.m., I sent a text message in the group chat to Master Gunner Sergeant Shookhart, Lieutenant Colonel Martinez, and in that group chat is First Sergeant Flores. Sir, I will arrive at 3:15 p.m. Routing error took me to 211 Farrar Road in Alabama. 211 Farrar Road is the same address for Magic 21 in Pensacola, Florida. Now, the end of my text message was, routing error took me to 211 for our road in Alabama. That was the end of my text message. I utilized, as I explained to Colonel Brunk, SgtMaj Alvarez, Major Kirk, and the incoming executive officer of Magic 21, they asked me why was I late, and I notified them that I always put an address in the GPS, even though I know where something or a place is, just in case there is, my throat's getting dry, just in case there is a traffic delay or an accident, and having the address in the GPS will automatically redirect me around it instead of me going head on to cause more delay. So because I had to get out of the house as quick as I can to make it there, I put in 211 for our road, and I accidentally, in an honest mistake, and it was the same travel time that would take me to get to Magic 21. The same travel time was to get to 211 for our road at the Alabama location. And an honest mistake. So that's why I utilized the GPS. And so I arrived to Magic 21 at 3:19 p.m. I immediately reported to Major Kirk's office. There was another Marine officer in there at that time. I believe it was a Marine officer. And so Major Kirk directed me to go sit in the command conference room. And so I did so, and I sat there by myself until 3:21 p.m. So 3 minutes. And while I was sitting in the room, there was a phone started ringing in the overhead, like the conference room phone call speaker. A phone started ringing just out of the blue, and so I made sure that I took note of it, because I'm just not going to write something or take note of something that did not happen. And so my note was, at 3:32 p.m. a phone started ringing in the overhead conference room speaker. No one answered the phone call, and I don't know who placed the phone call. So I don't know how many times it rang, but it rang more than 5 times, and no one picked up. Just shortly after that phone call, that phone call, SgtMaj Alvarez and Major Kirk entered the conference room at 3:32 p.m. And I started to give the proper greeting, and SgtMaj Alvarez had his head down and pointed me in the direction and said, Sergeant Smith, please report to Colonel Brunk. And when he finished, I said, I Sergeant Major, and good morning, Sergeant Major. And then SgtMaj Alvarez said good morning. And so I, based on what happened at the meeting on July 3rd, 2024, before I proceeded into the office of Colonel Brunk, I took out my cell phones and I took off my Apple Watch, and I placed it on the desk, on the secretary's desk, because that's what they directed me to do on July 3rd, 2024. And I was just following the same procedure. And because I can't record anything in there, and that's, you know, that's okay. That's that was their guidance. And so give me 1 second. And then Colonel Brunk acknowledged that I was there, and then Colonel Brunk started going down the list of items that he had, or list of notes that he had already pre-written in his notebook. And when Colonel Brunk started, speaking, I then started taking notes. And so the first the first point that the first thing that Colonel Brunk discussed was that I could, or a Marine can, specifically in my circumstance, I can request mast to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. I will repeat that. I can, C-A-N, I can request mast to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And I can address the request mast package to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. However, the package, my request mast application, would still have to be routed through the chain of command or the appropriate channels. And in doing so, the first the first commanding general in my chain of command is Brigadier General Henderson, which is the training command commanding general. Colonel Brunk emphasized that I can request mast to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. However, the request mast application in box 5A would still have to say Brigadier General Henderson. Now, this entire follow-up was not, a two-way communication. It was one-way communication. And I will emphasize that as I took in my notes and by my remembrance of what transpired. Colonel Brunk emphasized again that I could that my page 1, which is the portion that the Marine fills out, that my page 1 could remain inside of my request mast envelope. Okay. That it could remain in my request mast envelope. Colonel Brunk stated that we don't have to, it can be addressed as a, okay. So the first point that Colonel Brunk made was that they did not need me to take page 1 outside of the envelope. And the second point was I could request mast to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. The third point that Colonel Brunk made is that Brigadier General Henderson was asked by Colonel Brunk if he, Brigadier General Henderson, representing Training Command, would fund my official travel to personally deliver my request mast application. Brigadier General Henderson declined that request and said, no, there will not be a funded trip. And the reason for it not being a funded trip is because routing my Request Mast package through certified mail is less costly to the government, or specifically the Marine Corps, which means it costs less money to mail it than to send me there, and it costs more money to send me there than it does to mail it. And I'm just going to pause there real quick, because in the Marine Corps order, as I stated in part 1, every Marine should be provided the opportunity to communicate such grievance to the commander, in this case, the commanding general, to communicate such grievance. However, with Brigadier General Henderson, from the beginning, I was never afforded the opportunity to present such matters in person. And as well as mentioned in part 1, is that Request Mast is an official government process. It is a policy. It's established in a Marine Corps order, which governs the Marine Corps Request Mast procedures. Why should a service member have to take leave and pay their own travel to conduct official business? I did not ask that yesterday, but I was just referencing my past message broadcasts. The fourth point that Colonel Brunk brought up, mentioned, Colonel Brunk clarified that submitting the package to the Commandant of the Marine Corps, utilizing the chain of command, will require Brigadier General Henderson to have to unseal my Request Mast application. The Marine Corps order does not state anything to that effect. It does not state anything to the effect that an envelope that is sealed, a Request Mast application that is placed inside of an envelope that is properly sealed, that is marked to be opened by the commanding general or to be opened by the Commandant of the Marine Corps only, does not say that when it's being routed through the official channel that it shall be opened. It does not say that. So I because of the sternness and the firmness and the direct stance that Colonel Brunk and SgtMaj Alvarez had, there was no me asking questions, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. Even to mention, before I even started taking notes, Colonel Brunk was just trying to speed read off the notes that he had written down, and I asked Colonel Brunk if I could take a few minutes or a few seconds to take notes, and he said yes. So I've taken my notes. The fifth point that Colonel Brunk made was, Colonel Brunk said that if I decide not to allow them to mail it, then it is not a Request Mast. Essentially, and what I took from how I understood that was essentially that the papers I have inside an envelope, and that this part is not how I interpreted it. This is how I'll say that Colonel Brunk said that if I decide not to allow them, not to give my Request Mast application to them in a sealed envelope for them to mail it, it is not a Request Mast. he said that what I have inside of that envelope, if it's not delivered by the mail, that's all it is an envelope with papers inside. It is not a request mast. So if I choose not to mail it, there is no request mast at all. And I was shocked to hear that. I'll get into my emotions and my how I felt during that moment, during this entire meeting. Okay. I don't have much time, so there might be a part 3. Okay. And as I'm taking notes, Colonel Brunk immediately, as my head was down taking notes, Colonel Brunk immediately asked me if I had any tattoos. I looked at him like, and like confused. I'm thinking to myself, what does me having tattoos have to do with this request mast? And in response to Colonel Brunk's answer, I looked at him and I replied to him and told him that, sir, I would not like to answer that question. He then told me that he had a tattoo. Well, Colonel Brunk then acknowledged that my response in regards to me not wanting to answer, that I did not want to answer that question. And he said, okay. And then he told me that he had a tattoo on his right shoulder. And when he acknowledged my response about not wanting to answer the question, I then proceeded to take my notes. And while I was still taking notes, he told me that he had a tattoo on his right shoulder. And I'm still taking my notes at that time. I didn't pick up my head. And I said, without looking up, that I understand, sir. And Colonel Brunk said to me, that no, I don't understand. Colonel Brunk's telling me that I do not understand. That essentially saying Stefan Smith, saying my name, but he said it to me, and this is what he said. No, you don't understand. Let me see. No. Yeah, he said, no, you don't. Because you don't know what it says. And I did not respond to that at all. And then, as I'm taking notes, SgtMaj Alvarez asked me to step out for a few seconds, or to step out for a second, so that they were going to have a closed door meeting or a conversation. And once I stepped out of Colonel Brunk's office, a Navy officer had approached me as I was going to the conference room. And as I was going to the conference room, I saw on his name tape or name tag that it said chaplain. And before I stepped out of Colonel Brunk's office, they had asked, Colonel Brunk and Sergeant Major asked me if I wanted to leave my things there, and I didn't see a problem with it. So, you know, I chose to leave my request mass envelope there with the Marine Corps order and the documents that they had provided me. When the chaplain met me and went with and walked with me to the conference room, once we entered it, I a light popped off in my head, like a light bulb went off, and I just like, sir, is it okay if I go back and retrieve my package, my Request Mast application documents? And he said, yeah. And so I went back and knocked on Colonel Brunk's office door, and Sergeant Major Alvarez opened it. And as I was starting to let them know, Sergeant Major, I'm just here to get my package, Sergeant Major Alvarez let me know that they had ended their meeting and that I could go ahead and come back in, that they were finished. And I said, all right, Sergeant Major. So I went back in and had a seat. And then Lord have mercy. Colonel Brunk started to ask me another question, and I tried to resume taking my notes from when they had asked me to step out. And once I started taking my notes, the only far as I got in this specific note was Colonel Brunk asked me. That's all I got to write. And then Sergeant Major Alvarez started talking to me. And Sergeant Major Alvarez started to ask me, Staff Sergeant Smith, and right now this is coming off of my memory, because I'll tell you why. And Sergeant Major Alvarez started bombarding me with a question, and that question was to the effects of, Staff Sergeant Smith, yesterday or last week, when we met, I had asked you a question, but I did not receive a definite answer or response to the question, a definite response as being yes or no. So I'm going to ask you the question again, and if you could give me a yes or no response. And once Sergeant Major ended, I was like, excuse me, Sergeant Major, is it okay if I finish taking notes? And Sergeant Major said no. And he asked me again, and he was like, Sergeant Smith, I'm going to ask you again. I have to formulate the question again in my brain real quick. Give me a second. So Sergeant Major Alvarez asked again, based on the response you gave last week, you said, and I quote, he said, you said, and he's looking down at a notepad that he had taken notes on. And Sergeant Major Alvarez stated what my response was last week. And my response was, I still desire to submit my Request Mast application, and I would like to do so by personally delivering it. And then Sergeant Major Alvarez started again, and he was like, okay, so based off the answer that you gave last week, and the response that you gave, any reasonable person with the response that you gave would have to assume that your response to, or your answer to the question that I'm asking is no. So, Sergeant Smith, I'm going to ask you again, would you still like to submit your Request Mast application, and would you like to utilize the certified mail as the primary means to submit your Request Mast application? And I'm still shocked, like, Sergeant Major, and there was no Sergeant Major this, there was no sir this anymore. It was just yes or no, so that they can take down the notes. And Colonel Brunk even chimed in, and Colonel Brunk was like, Staff Sergeant, I can't even remember everything they said. I have an audio recording that I want you all to listen to. It's not a video. It's an audio recording. Is it here? Yes. So this is when I was driving home yesterday. Because I was unable to take notes, I did an audio recording just for this purpose, because I knew that it's so much I was gonna forget. Like I'm forgetting now, because I can't believe it. And my mind is trying to piece all this together. So I'm gonna go ahead and start playing the clip. Give me 1 second. And this is my recap of yesterday's meeting. So I do apologize if if some of the words might not be able to be understood by you. And because it's an audio recording, I'm not able to upload it separately. So I have to record it as a video in order for it to be uploaded. My recording was 36 minutes and 43 seconds in duration. So I will be able to play as much as I can for the next few minutes before I have to report in. Audio recording just so that I can take proper notes and have them to refer back to, because I was not able to take accurate, timely notes during a meeting that took place today. So when I look back at my red notebook, I'll see that there's a cutoff of notes. And this is the reason why. So Col Brunk was saying something to me, and I can't remember what it was, but I pray that I can remember when I get home. Col Brunk was talking to me, and I was about to get ready to take some notes. And right when I was about to take a note, SgtMaj Alvarez interrupted me. And SgtMaj Alvarez started to ask me, SgtMaj Alvarez told me that based on my meeting with them last week on Thursday, July 3rd, they asked me a question that they was not able to get an accurate response. A response as yes or no. And so he wanted to ask me again today. And when he asked me the question was, do I still want to pursue, or do I still want to route my Request Mast application? I have to pause the video right now. I have to pause the audio recording. I do apologize. Right now, the audio recording was stopped at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, but I'm going to try to start it back from 2 minutes and 34 seconds because I have to end this broadcast because I am about to enter Naval Air Station Pensacola, Florida to report into Col Brunk. I don't know what the meeting's about, so I pray that I just have to end the broadcast.